To save his grandma, the billionaire CEO married her, but his secret crush was the real shock. The old woman was on the ground, bruised and breathless. "I shoved me," she whispered, "because I don't belong here." A group of wealthy women stood over her, sunglasses sharp. "This is a private community. Go back to where you came from." Then came the voice. Not loud, but unwavering. "You just violated California Penal Code, SS 242 assault and battery. You've got 5 seconds to apologize, or I'll make you famous in court." Everyone turned. A young woman, hair pulled back, shoes worn, holding nothing but a briefcase and a burning sense of justice. The crowd backed off. The old woman blinked up at her. "Young lady, what's your name?" "Maya." "Are you married?" "No, ma'am." "Good." She smiled mischief in her wrinkles. The woman in the plaza. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the quiet plaza, painting golden light onto cracked sidewalks and the faded chalk lines of an old hopscotch game. Maya Jensen adjusted the strap of her worn leather bag and moved quickly, the clack of her shoes steady, her steps familiar. She had just one more legal consultation for the day, one more favor, one more free piece of advice given to someone who couldn't afford anyone else. But the shouting stopped her. "No, don't touch me. This is public space." The voice was frail, and then, a thud, a body against the pavement. Maya's bag hit the ground before she even realized she'd moved. Ahead, a cluster of yoga-clad women stood in a half-circle, towering over an elderly woman with short silver hair and bruising already blooming on her hand. "This area's private," one of them snapped. "We pay to live here. Go pick through trash somewhere else." Maya stepped between them. "I suggest you back away," she said, her voice even, her breath tight. One woman scoffed. "Who even are you?" Maya crouched down, ignoring them. She gently took the old woman's hand. "Are you okay, ma'am?" "Better now," the woman rasped, eyes watery but sharp. "They think a pair of Lululemons makes them God." Maya stood and faced them again. "You just committed battery under California law, Penal Code 242. If this woman presses charges, that's a misdemeanor, punishable by 6 months." The women laughed, until she held up her phone. "I'm a lawyer," she added, voice low and certain, "and this entire conversation is being recorded." Silence. The yoga women backed away slowly, like mist in the wind. One muttered something about crazy people, but none dared look back. When they were gone, Maya turned and knelt. "What do you need, a doctor?" "No, just someone who remembers I'm not invisible." Maya smiled. "Then we're even. I needed a reason to breathe today." The woman tilted her head. "You're not from around here." "I moved to Long Beach last fall. Took the first job I could get." "Legal aid?" "Yep." "You're not married, are you?" Maya blinked. "Excuse me?" "I asked if you're married." "Why? Why?" The old woman reached into her pocket, pulled out a faded photo. It showed a handsome man in a military uniform, tall and broad-shouldered, standing beside her younger self in a field of lemons. "I have a son," she said, "and you just passed the test I've been waiting to give." Maya opened her mouth, closed it again. "I appreciate the offer, really, but I'm not asking you to love him. Just meet him. See if he has the good sense to recognize what you are." Maya shook her head. "Ma'am." Evelyn. "I didn't help you for anything and—" Evelyn smiled. "That's exactly why you passed." Maya stood. "I have to go." Evelyn waved a hand. "So do I, but I'll send him anyway." And just like that, she walked off, dusting herself off like nothing had happened. Maya didn't think about it again until 3 days later, when a matte black SUV pulled up outside her office. And a man stepped out, black t-shirt, jeans, broad shoulders, sharp jaw, zero smile. "Are you Maya Jensen?" he asked. Who's asking? Ethan Langston. He extended a hand. She hesitated, then shook it. My mother sent me. Maya stared. She was serious? Deadly, he said. She wants me married, apparently to you. Maya almost laughed. Then she saw the folder in his hand. Documents, notarized papers, marriage license at the top. You've got to be kidding. I told her it was ridiculous, Ethan said, but she made some calls. Why calls? The county. Turns out if you get married to a local, you qualify for expedited residency status. Maya froze. Your job, he said quietly. They're threatening to let you go unless you get California ID, fast. Did she know that? My mother has more ears than God. They stood in silence. Look, he said, I don't want this any more than you do, but it solves both our problems. I keep my mother off my back, you keep your job. Maya crossed her arms. You're really willing to marry a stranger? You helped my mother. She thinks that makes you a saint. That's good enough for me. She blinked. Do you always do what she says? Then why now? He didn't answer. But something in his eyes, something tired and soft and buried under years of control, said, because I owe her everything. Maya looked down at the paper, then back up at him. You're just a guy, right? He nodded once. Just a guy. She would later remember that line. Because he wasn't. Not even close. But right then, she shook his hand. Fine, she said. Let's get married. Chapter 1. The Stranger. The wedding was over in 12 minutes. No flowers, no cake. Just a signature, a city seal, and two people who barely looked at each other. They stood outside the downtown courthouse, both squinting into the late afternoon light, pretending the decision they'd just made was a rational one. It wasn't. Maya Jensen hadn't dreamed of marriage. She hadn't even thought about it since her mother died 2 years ago, leaving behind a shoebox full of bills and a tattered dream of putting her daughter through school. Maya had done it anyway, on her own, scrubbing floors and working weekends, studying while half asleep on a borrowed mattress. And now, she was married. To a stranger. For reasons that couldn't be written on a Hallmark card. You hungry? Ethan asked, voice flat but not unkind. Maya looked over. He was scrolling through his phone, thumb flicking without focus. Nor, still gotta eat. I said I'm fine. He nodded, pocketed the phone, then led her toward the street. They ended up at a quiet Vietnamese cafe, tucked between a laundromat and an insurance office. It smelled like cilantro and star anise, like comfort Maya hadn't let herself feel in years. They sat in silence as the server brought water. Maya didn't touch hers. Ethan finally spoke. So, what now? You tell me. This was your mother's idea. He raised a brow. You didn't have to say yes. I did if I wanted to keep my job. Honey, I thought lawyers didn't fold so easily. She looked up, and I thought bodyguards didn't act like CEOs. For a split second, something flickered behind his eyes. Amusement? Surprise? It was gone before she could name it. I'm just good at keeping things in order. Right. That explains the tailored jacket and the $10,000 0-cent watch. He didn't respond, just tapped his spoon once against the table, then looked at her. Really looked. You don't trust me. I don't trust anything that comes wrapped in money. He nodded slowly. Fair. The food came. Maya pushed noodles around in her bowl. I'll pay you back, she said suddenly. Housing deposit, the legal fees, the time, all of it. I don't need your money. I do, she said. I need to pay my own way. Ethan tilted his head. Why? She met his eyes. Because I've spent my entire life being underestimated. I won't let this be one more thing someone uses to own me. He went quiet for a moment, then said, I respect that. That made her pause. He wasn't mocking her, wasn't deflecting, just listening. She nodded. Good. Later they stood on the sidewalk while cars passed in streaks of red and white light. The air had cooled. Maya folded her arms. Where do you live? She asked. He gestured behind him. Near Ocean Avenue. It's quiet. I live there now too. He looked at her, then away. Not unless you want to. She nodded slowly. Separate addresses then. For now, fine by me. He pulled a set of keys from his jacket pocket and handed her one. What's this? The place my mother bought for you this morning. Maya blinked. Excuse me? You wanted property in your name. You've got it. I didn't agree to. It's small. 1 bedroom, near the courthouse. Clean, safe. She looked down at the key in her palm. It felt heavier than it should. I'll pay her back too. Ethan gave a rare half-smile. Try telling her that. I will. Well, they stood there a moment longer. The city buzzed around them. Distant sirens, laughter from a bar down the block, the rhythm of 1,000 lives passing by. Do you really think this is going to work? She asked. This? He asked. Contract. This arrangement. He didn't smile this time, just said quietly, I think some things don't have to make sense to be exactly right. She looked at him, and something in her chest ached. Not because she believed him, but because part of her wanted to. That night, Maya stood alone in a condo she technically owned. It was sparse. Just a mattress, a kettle, a single photo left on the counter of a young Evelyn Langston holding a boy with storm-colored eyes. The caption read, He never cried once, he just looked at me, like he already knew the world was broken. Maya traced the edge of the frame with her finger. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know if she'd regret it tomorrow. But she knew one thing. For the first time in months, her hands weren't shaking. And that had to count for something. Chapter 2. The Man with No Wallet. The next morning, Maya woke up to silence. No roommate banging pans, no sirens clawing through paper-thin windows, no radiator rattling like an old cough. Just sunlight pushing softly through pale linen curtains and the quiet hum of a refrigerator that actually worked. It didn't feel real. She padded barefoot across polished hardwood, opened the fridge, and stared at the single bottle of water someone had left behind. A handwritten note sat beside it. Didn't want to assume your taste in milk. Or anything else. No flourish, no signature, just the one letter. She folded it once and tucked it in her wallet. 2 hours later, she stood outside Langston Tower, 54 stories of steel and glass carved into the Long Beach skyline. The sun bounced off its mirrored surface, blinding and unforgiving. This was where Ethan claimed to work, the security director gig. Maya wasn't snooping, not really. She just needed to understand. She walked into the front lobby, head high. People buzzed around her in heels and pressed slacks, IDs clipped neatly to their chests. A fountain murmured near the elevators. The smell was a mixture of espresso and expensive perfume. She approached the front desk. Hi, I'm here to see Ethan Langston. He works in security. The woman behind the desk didn't blink. A moment she typed something, then paused. I'm sorry. There's no Ethan Langston listed in our... Maya frowned. Are you sure? Another few keystrokes, the woman's expression changed. Just slightly, like someone who realized she had almost said too much. And then, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't help you. That evening, Maya waited outside the cafe from the day before. She wasn't sure why she'd texted him. She hadn't expected him to say yes. But he did. He arrived 5 minutes late, dressed in jeans and a dark gray hoodie. He looked less like a CEO now, and more like a man trying not to be seen. Sorry, he said, slipping into the chair across from her. I stopped by your work today, she said, skipping hello. He didn't flinch. Why? Then who you are? He nodded slowly. And we said there's no Ethan Langston in security. His gaze didn't waver. I'm in executive security. Most of what I do is private. They're not going to list me under interns. Why not just say you're in upper management? Because I'm not. She narrowed her eyes. You're a terrible liar. I'm not lying, he said calmly. I'm just not telling you everything. But that stopped her. Why? Because, he said, you agreed to marry a man who didn't promise you anything, and that works better for both of us if you don't start asking for more. She stared at him. You think I want more? I think, he said softly, you're smart enough to know that if you did, I'd let you down. The air between them shifted. He wasn't being cruel, just honest, and somehow that made it worse. So what's the truth? She asked. Are you broke? Are you a trust fund runaway? Are you someone with a fake name and a list of IOUs longer than your mother's wine collection? He almost smiled. Would that make you feel better? She said, but it'd make you human. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I'm not broke. She exhaled, a tight breath she hadn't meant to hold. When I've learned that telling people who I am changes the way they look at me, including people like you. I'm not like them. He didn't say anything. She looked away. I just want to know what I signed up for. I do. After dinner, they walked in silence toward the edge of the pier. The wind pulled at Maya's coat. She didn't mind. I never told you why I came to Long Beach, she said. You don't have to. I want to. He waited. My mom passed away 2 years ago, liver cancer. She left behind debt and silence, the kind that fills a room like smoke. So I moved, took the first law job I could find. I wanted a fresh start. Did it help? No, really, but at least the pain had a new name. He glanced at her, which is starting over. They stopped at the edge of the pier. Below them, the water moved like a living breath. You always speak in metaphors, he asked. Only when I'm trying not to fall apart. He turned toward her. You're not going to fall apart, Maya. And she almost believed him. Why not? Because you married a man with no wallet, no name tag, and maybe no clue what he's doing. But he knows one thing. Well, he looked at her then, really looked. You didn't say yes because you needed saving. You said yes because you knew how to save yourself. She blinked hard. And for the first time since signing that paper, she let herself smile. It's just a little. Later that night, as she stood at her kitchen sink, rinsing her tea mug, Maya felt her phone buzz on the counter. It was a text from an unknown number. The fridge will be stocked by morning. Hope you like strawberries. She stared at it for a moment, then typed back. I prefer blueberries, but thanks. Pause. Then the reply. Noted, blueberries it is. And just like that, her new life began. Not with fireworks, not with promises, just with fruit. And the growing certainty that nothing about this man or this marriage was what it seemed. Chapter 3. The House and the Lie. Maya stood barefoot on the threshold of. It was modest, clean, smelled faintly of cedar wood and paint. A real estate agent had probably lit a candle for showings, then forgot to blow it out. The floor creaked gently in the hallway, a sound that made the place feel lived in, even though no one ever had. It was hers now, on paper anyway. The title deed was tucked inside a slim envelope sitting on the marble counter. Her name typed in bold. Maya Rose Jensen, sole owner. She stared at it. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like borrowing a future that didn't belong to her. The door buzzed. She opened it to find Ethan standing there in a black hoodie, a Trader Joe's bag in one hand and a bottle of orange juice under his arm. You don't answer texts? The phone was charging. I brought breakfast, he said. Sort of. She stepped aside. You didn't have to. I know. He moved through the condo like someone who had seen it a dozen times before, which, she supposed, he had. The listing, the transaction, the silent offer delivered through his mother's lawyer. It had all happened so fast, she barely remembered signing anything. He placed a small container of raspberries on the counter. "You said no to strawberries." She looked down. "Thank you." He turned, leaned against the counter. "You haven't opened the envelope." "I'm not sure I should." "It's your name on the deed." "What's the problem?" He tilted his head. "Why? Because nothing in my life has ever come without me bleeding for it. And this was a handshake and a courthouse signature." Ethan studied her for a long moment. "You want me to take it back?" "Oh. Did you want me to put it in both our names?" "Oh. What do you want, Maya?" She exhaled. "I want it to feel real." "It is real. If I didn't earn it." Ethan crossed the room, slowly, like he didn't want to spook her. He stopped 2 feet from her. "I watched you stand in front of a mob of women and defend a stranger like she was your mother." Maya blinked. "I watched you walk into my life and not ask for a single thing, even when you could have. And then I gave you this house," he said quietly, "not as a reward, but as a place to rest, because I know what it's like to survive without peace." Her throat tightened. "You barely know me." "I know enough." The silence between them was soft, not awkward, not defensive, just still. Then Maya said, "I'll pay for the renovations. There's nothing to fix. I want a bookshelf and a better sink." "Fine, but I'm installing the sink." "Because if I can't give you peace, I can at least give you plumbing." She almost laughed. "Point?" Instead, she looked at him, really looked. "You ever had to work for anything?" she asked. He went quiet. Then softly, "More than you'd think." She didn't ask what he meant, and he didn't offer it. That afternoon, she visited the permit office to register her updated address. "Local ID takes 6 weeks, the clerk said, chewing gum. "I only need the temporary clearance for now." "You're married." Olivian said. "Proof." Maya handed over the certificate. The woman raised an eyebrow. "Married to Ethan Langston?" "That's right." "Like Langston?" Maya blinked. "What do you mean?" The woman shrugged. "Never mind." She stamped the form and handed it back. "You're all set." Maya left the building with a weird knot in her stomach. That night, she sat on the floor of her empty living room, eating boxed mac and cheese, her laptop open beside her. She Googled Langston Family California and found what she expected. Old money, real estate, bioptic, clean energy, multi-billion-dollar holdings. One name stood out: Ethan Gray Langston, CEO, reclusive, private, rarely photographed. There was a blurry photo from a charity gala 5 years ago. It was him. Of course it was him. Her husband was the most powerful man in Southern California, and he had never once said a word about it. Maya stared at the screen, and then closed the laptop. She wasn't going to ask him, not yet. Because if he wasn't ready to tell her the truth, maybe he was still figuring out how much of it he wanted to be. And that felt oddly familiar. At midnight, her phone buzzed. "Ethan, how's the sink?" "Dripping. Might be a metaphor." "Ethan, don't read too much into it. I'm fixing it tomorrow." "May it's on the way." A pause. Then, "Ethan, sweet dreams, Jensen." She smiled, closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, dreamed of something other than escape. Chapter 4. The Witch at the Firm. If Maya had learned anything in her first year as an attorney, it was that law firms didn't reward goodness, they rewarded power. That morning, she wore her simplest navy blouse and sharpish mind. She had a client meeting at 10 and a mediation case at 2, and she had finally memorized the names of everyone in the office kitchen who hoarded the good coffee. She stepped inside the break room and poured herself a cup. That's when she heard the whispers. "She's still here? I thought she was getting fired. Didn't you hear? She's married now. Some guy gave her property. Guess that solves everything." Maya didn't flinch. She turned and walked past them like their words were lint on her sleeve, something small enough to brush off. But it stayed with her. By 11:30, she was summoned to Monica Sharp's office. Monica, the managing partner of Jensen and Crane, was the kind of woman who smelled like expensive silence. She wore high heels the way men wore titles, like she'd earned them in blood. Maya entered the glass-walled office with her back straight. "You wanted to see me?" Monica didn't look up right away. Her manicured fingers flicked through a folder. "We're downsizing," she said. "Trimming non-essential personnel." Maya blinked. "Excuse me?" Monica set the folder down. "You're an out-of-state hire, Maya. Your probationary period was extended last quarter. Technically, we don't owe you severance. I'm married now. I've submitted paperwork for local ID. Your ID hasn't cleared yet." "It will." Monica gave a tight smile. Maya swallowed. "So you're firing me?" "We're releasing you," Monica said, "and your final check will be ready Friday." His voice didn't shake. "This is retaliation. For having a woman in public, for having a name that doesn't fit your building, for being good at my job without kissing anyone's ring." Monica didn't blink. "Be careful what you accuse people of, Maya. You're not irreplaceable." She stood. Maya did too. Then Monica added, almost casually, "And you'll be taking over your caseload." Maya turned back sharply. "Tanya?" "She's been eager for more responsibility." Maya didn't speak. Because she knew the truth. Tanya wasn't just taking her files. She was taking credit for them. Later that afternoon, Maya gathered her things in silence. The office moved around her like she didn't exist. A few eyes glanced up, none held. Tanya passed her desk with a paper cup of green juice and a smug tilt to her mouth. "Rough day?" she asked. Maya didn't answer. "Of course I'm aware," Olivia intended to say. "I found your file on the Thompson arbitration. I found your notes brilliant. Really, you should do ghostwriting full-time." Maya gripped the edge of the desk. Then she stood, walked to the elevator, and left without a word. She didn't cry until she was inside her condo. Not the loud kind, just the steady, soundless kind, the kind that came from the gut and left nothing behind. That evening, she sat on the floor and opened her laptop. Then paused. She could call HR. She could write a public complaint. She could storm back in and tell Monica Sharp exactly how many hours she'd worked without pay. But all that would make her small, and she was done being small. Instead, she wrote one email to a colleague in San Diego. Just 5 lines. "Hi Marcus. Hope you're well. I'm looking for new placement. Litigation, preferably. My record's attached. Let me know if you hear anything. Thanks. Maya." She hit send, then closed the computer. The next morning, a knock came at her door. She opened it in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Ethan stood there, holding a cardboard box and a coffee. "I heard," he said. She blinked. "How?" He held up the box. "Firm courier brought your things. My name was listed on the emergency contact file." Maya stepped aside, letting him in. "You didn't need to come." "I know." He set the box down. "Want to talk about it?" he asked. Want me to say something stupid?" Yet. He handed her the coffee. "They're idiots." She sipped it. "You don't know that?" "I know enough." She sat down on the couch. He didn't sit next to her, just stood nearby, hands in his pockets, watching her like she was a fire he wasn't sure how to warm. "I want to burn the place down," she muttered. "I'll bring the matches." She smiled, barely, then said, "They're going to give Tanya a promotion for stealing my work." He nodded slowly. "I used to think if I worked hard enough, people would see me," she said. "We do," he said. "The right people will." She looked up, and something in her chest ached. Not with defeat, but with clarity. This wasn't the end. This was the line, the before, and the after. And she was standing on it now, and with no one behind her. And Ethan, somehow, waiting in front. Chapter 5. The Man She Married. 3 days passed. 3 days of silence. 3 days of no job, no offers, and no appetite. On the 4th day, Maya got a call. Blocked number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello." A woman's voice, too chipper. "Jensen, this is Dana from Westwell Legal Media. We'd like to verify your attendance at tonight's gala, the one hosted by Langston Holdings." Maya sat up. "There must be a mistake." "Aye, you're on the guest list. Priority access. Black dress code." Maya blinked. "Who put me on that list?" The woman smiled through the phone. "Mr. Langston, of course." She didn't want to go. But she went. Because part of her, the angry part, the curious part, needed to see it with her own eyes, needed to understand why her name was still sitting in his world, even as the rest of it seemed to forget her. She wore the only black dress she owned, simple, clean, understated. She slicked her hair back and wore no jewelry. If she was going to walk into a room of power, she wasn't going to pretend she belonged. She'd just be there. The Langston Tower ballroom sat like a chandelier-lit cathedral above the city. Every step echoed, every dress sparkled, waiters passed with silver trays that weighed more than her rent. And at the center of it, Ethan. Not in jeans, not in a hoodie, but in a black tailored suit, tie off, collar open, drink in hand. And surrounded. She hadn't seen her yet, but someone else had. "Isn't that Maya Jensen?" someone whispered. "Wasn't she fired?" "I heard she married into money." "It doesn't look like it. Look at her shoes." Maya felt her heart harden, not with shame, but steel. She moved across the room like a knife slicing silk. And when Ethan turned, their eyes met. Could he stilled? For a second, just 1 second, something slipped in his expression. Relief? "Maya," he said, setting his glass down. "Mr. Langston," she replied coolly. "Or should I say, CEO Langston?" The small group around him fell silent. Ethan didn't flinch. "Walk with me." "I've been running." Olivia nodded, not looking. "Maya, you lied to me?" He exhaled. "I didn't lie. I withheld." She stepped closer. "You let me walk into that firm every day thinking I had no power. You let me get fired while everyone laughed behind my back." "I didn't laugh behind your back." "I know." I paused. "I laughed in front of mine." The ballroom hushed as the air between them thickened. "I didn't want to be saved," she whispered. "I know." "Then why did you do it?" Ethan's jaw flexed. "Because I couldn't watch them take what you built." "You had no right." He nodded. "You're right. I don't want your rescue, but then take something else." "What?" He turned, raised a hand. The music stopped. The light shifted. And then he did the unthinkable. He stepped onto the small dais at the center of the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "tonight's gala was originally meant to honor Langston Holdings' recent merger. But I'd like to change that." The crowd stilled. "Tonight, I want to recognize someone else." Maya froze. "I want to recognize Maya Jensen, a woman who defended a stranger in public without asking for thanks, who worked behind closed doors while others stole her light, who stood taller when they pushed her down and still gave grace when they deserved rage." People turned. These bulbs popped. Maya's chest rose and fell like a wave in a storm. "She's not here tonight because of me," Ethan said. "She's here despite me." He looked at her and only her. "I didn't just marry her, I admire her." A beat. "She's the woman I want beside me, in any room." Miles. In applause. Slow at first. Then faster. Maya stood motionless, her face unreadable, her heart beating too loud for her to hear the crowd. When it finally quieted, Ethan stepped down. Walked back to her. "I didn't do that for a headline," he said. "I know," she said. He looked at her. "Can I drive you home?" "No," she said softly. Then, after a breath, "But you can walk me out." They stood in the parking lot beneath the tower, the city lights stretched like veins of gold behind them. Ethan turned to her. "Are we okay?" Maya didn't answer right away. Then, "You could have told me about who you were. You should have told me." "I know." "I don't want a man who hides." "I'm trying to learn how to stand beside you," he said. "I'm trying to figure out if I want someone who had to be taught." Another silence. She looked at him. "You broke something," she said, "but you also lit a match I didn't know I was allowed to strike." He nodded. She said, "We start over." Pause. Then, "On name's Maya Jensen." He smiled, gently. "I'm Ethan Langston." She nodded. "Nice to meet you." And for the first time, it was the truth. Chapter 6. Her Father's Price. Maya hadn't spoken to her father in almost 3 years. It wasn't hate that kept her away. It was disappointment. The kind that calcifies over time. The kind that builds a wall, brick by bitter brick. But when she saw his name on her phone, flashing again and again one Tuesday morning, something in her spine bristled. She finally answered on the 5th call. "Dad?" "Maya," he said, his voice already in apology mode. "I'm so glad you picked up." Olivia nodded nervously. "That's no way to greet your old man. You only call when you want something." "Langston, I need to see you." "Aye. It's about your sister and a business deal, something big, something life-changing." Maya almost hung up, but something in her chest, maybe guilt, maybe habit, stopped her. "Where?" "Her old house," he said. "I had it cleaned up, just for this." The house looked the same, a little more faded, a little more hollow. Maya stepped inside and smelled bleach, dust, and the unmistakable scent of cheap desperation. Her father greeted her in a too-new blazer and a forced smile. "Maya," he said, arms open like they'd never fought. "You look..." "Get to the point," she replied. He gestured to the kitchen table. Sitting there, legs crossed, was Lana. Same smug smirk, same high-end knockoff handbag. "What is she doing here?" Maya asked. Lana shrugged. "Nice to see you too." Their father cleared his throat. "We want to make peace." "Peace or a profit?" "A partnership," he said. "Lana's been offered a modeling deal with a high-profile investor, but they'd prefer the contract to go through someone reputable, with a clean legal record." Maya narrowed her eyes. "So you want me to sign something for her?" "No volant," Lana said. "We want your name, just for the contract, one signature." In return. Her father smiled. "We split the signing bonus, 50,000 each." "I don't want your money," Maya said coldly. Lana leaned forward. "We know who your husband is now. You've made it. You're just being greedy if you don't help your family." That word, family, hit like a slap. "Funny," Maya whispered, "coming from the girl who stole my college fund and gave it to her boyfriend for a dirt bike business." Lana's smirk faltered. Maya turned to her father. "I came here hoping you'd changed, hoping you'd finally see me as more than a check you forgot to cash." He opened his mouth. She didn't let him speak. "You're the same man who used my mother's funeral to pitch a pyramid scheme to the neighbors." She stepped back. But as she turned toward the door, she saw it. The glass on the counter, the one she'd absent-mindedly sipped from during the conversation. Her vision blurred. Her knees buckled. "Why did you?" Lana stood slowly. "It's just something to help you sleep. Not long, just enough time for a few photos." "Because," Lana hissed, "no one ever gives you power unless you take it. And you have his last name now. That makes you a gateway." Maya tried to scream. Darkness swallowed her. She woke in a hotel room. Dim light, cheap drapes, cold air conditioning humming too loud. She couldn't move her wrists, duct-taped. Her phone was gone. But she wasn't alone. A man stood near the bed. Not Ethan. Not family. A stranger. "I don't want trouble," she said. He smiled slowly. "Then don't scream." She tensed. "You don't want to do this. Your sister says otherwise." "I'll sue you," Maya snapped. "I'll ruin you," he replied, calm as ice. "The press will say you were cheating on your billionaire husband at a motel. Imagine what that'll do to your precious new reputation." And that's when Maya understood. This wasn't just blackmail. It was leverage. Staged, filmed, ready to destroy her. Unless. She stalled. "We husband will find me," she whispered. He laughed. "The CEO of Langston Holdings?" "I didn't say which husband." That confused him. And in the space between his doubt and her breath, the door exploded open. Ethan, a gun not in his hand but in his voice, had to get away from her. The man raised his hands. Maya wept as Ethan cut through the duct tape and pulled her close. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here." Security flooded the hallway behind him. And suddenly the room was full of people, his people. Later, wrapped in a blanket and a kind of silence only trauma can carve, Maya sat in the back seat of a black SUV. Ethan sat beside her, watching her with that same quiet intensity. "I should have told you I was going to see him," she said softly. "Ah," he said. "You shouldn't have had to." She looked at him. "How did you know?" "I had your location on autoping. After the gala, I told my team to keep an eye." "You were watching me?" "No," he said. "I was protecting you, even if you hated me for it." She looked down at her shaking hands. "I'm not okay." "You don't have to be. I don't want this life to change me." He reached out slowly and took her hand. "It already has," he said. "You're stronger than you've ever been." She closed her eyes. "I feel like glass." "Glass can cut," Ethan said, "especially when it breaks in the right direction." Chapter 7. The Woman in the Hotel Room. Maya stood under the shower until the water turned cold. She scrubbed hard, not because she felt dirty, but because she needed to feel something that belonged to her. The weight of the past 24 hours pressed down like wet wool. Drugged by her own family. Locked in a room like a headline waiting to happen. Rescued by the man she still didn't fully understand. Now, back in her own apartment, safe, she still didn't feel free. She stepped out, wrapped herself in a towel, and opened the bathroom door. Ethan was there, sitting on the floor, leaning against the hallway wall, his back against the wood like he was holding up the entire building with his spine. His head snapped up. "I didn't mean to scare you." Maya didn't flinch. "I didn't hear you." He stood, slowly. "I didn't want to leave." "You didn't have to stay." "I wanted to." They stared at each other in the dim light of the hallway. Something unspoken passed between them, thick as storm wind. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "I'm not sure." Ethan stepped closer. and she could smell the starch of his collar, the warmth of coffee still on his skin. "I wanted to kill him," he said. "I know. I almost did." Maya's throat tightened. "Do you want me to say you shouldn't have?" "Oh," she said, "I want you to say you stayed because you wanted to, not because you felt responsible." "I didn't feel responsible," Ethan whispered. "I felt terrified." That stopped her. He had never said that before. Not once. "I have all this power," he said. "All this money, all these men who would move the earth if I asked. But last night I realized, well, if I didn't find you, none of it mattered." Maya closed her eyes. "I didn't want to need you. I didn't want to love you." Silence. Then he stepped even closer. "You're not glass, Maya," he said. She let out a shaky breath. "You're not a fortress, Ethan. You're a flame. You burn everything you touch." "Then stop standing so close." "Maybe I want to." They were inches apart now, and in the quiet between them, Maya said the thing she wasn't supposed to say. "I won't leave?" "I wasn't planning to. I mean tonight." Ethan hesitated. Then he reached out, slow, careful, and touched her hand. "I'll sleep on the couch." She nodded. "Okay." But when she turned to go back to her room, her fingers didn't let go of his. And neither did his. They lay in bed like strangers, pretending not to listen to each other breathe. The city hummed outside, the sirens far enough to be background music. "I'm afraid to fall asleep," she said suddenly. "Why?" "Because when I wake up, it might all come rushing back." Ethan's voice was soft. "Then don't wake up alone." She turned toward him. "You'll still be here?" He looked at her. "I'll still be here." And when she fell asleep, her fingers still curled in his shirt, the nightmares never came. In the morning, she woke to the smell of eggs and burnt toast. She walked into the kitchen to find Ethan wielding a spatula like it was a sword, and a dish towel slung over his shoulder like he'd earned it. He looked up, sheepish. "I didn't say I could cook. I said I'd try." Maya leaned against the doorframe. "You're officially the worst chef I've ever married. You've only married one." "Exactly." He set a cracked plate on the table. "Breakfast of champions." "You mean survivors?" Ethan looked at her, serious now. "I want to take you somewhere." Wait. He hesitated. "Private. No cameras. No one watching." "Because I'm tired of showing the world everything. I want one thing that's just ours." Maya nodded. "Let me grab my shoes." He drove her to the coast. An hour north of the city, windy roads, tall trees. They ended up at a small stretch of private beach, Langston Land, of course, where the ocean whispered against the shore like it was confessing something sacred. There was a cabin, small, wood-framed, untouched. Maya stepped inside. The floor creaked, the windows were wide open, the air smelled like salt and pine. "This is yours?" she asked. Norman said. She turned. "It's ours," he said, "if you want it." She swallowed. "I don't know what I want yet." He nodded. "You don't have to." They sat on the porch as the sun dipped low, casting gold over the horizon. Ethan handed her a ring box. She didn't open it. He didn't speak. But after a long moment she asked, "Why now?" "Because last night I thought I'd lose you, and I realized I'd been holding back everything I felt, waiting for some perfect moment. But love isn't something you schedule." She opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band. No diamonds, no flash. Just solid. Real. "I'm not promising forever," she said quietly. "I'm not asking for it," he replied. "Just today." She took the ring. Slipped it on. and for the first time in their marriage, Maya Jensen felt like a wife. Not by law, but by choice. Chapter 8. Property and the Truth. The Long Beach real estate office was white marble and cold smiles. Maya walked through its glass doors with Ethan at her side, though they didn't touch. They never touched in places like this. "Name?" asked the receptionist, not looking up. "Maya Jensen, I have a 3 p.m. showing." The woman finally glanced at her. Her eyes scanned over Maya's thrifted blazer and scuffed flats. Dismissal came so fast it could have been reflex. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" "I made the appointment," Maya said evenly. The woman forced a tight smile. "Of course, please have a seat. Your agent will be with you shortly." They waited and waited. At 3:24 p.m., a man with slicked-back hair and a watch louder than his voice emerged from a glass office and greeted them without warmth. "You're Maya?" "Hold, Olivia." He looked at Ethan, eyebrows raised. "And you are?" "Husband," Ethan said quietly. The man's posture changed slightly, just enough to acknowledge, there's the money. "This way, please." They toured 2 units. Both were lovely, too lovely, the kind that whisper you don't belong as you walk through them. "I like the second one," Maya said after they stepped outside. "I know," Ethan said. "You touch the windows." She smiled despite herself. The agent cleared his throat. "Of course, the seller will need proof of funds." Maya opened her mouth, but Ethan cut in. "That won't be a problem." "Great. In that case, I'll start the paperwork." "We'll need the deed in her name only," Ethan added. The man paused. "I see. Well, usually for married couples." "She needs full ownership," Ethan said again, firmer. The agent looked at Maya. "Is this a divorce thing?" "No," she said. "It's a me thing." The agent gave a thin smile and nodded. They sat in the conference room, waiting for papers. Maya stared out the window. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I know. Why, you did." "You once told me you've never had anything that couldn't be taken away," Ethan said quietly. "Now you do." She looked down. "I feel guilty." "Oh, because I didn't earn this." Ethan turned to her, voice calm and certain. "You earned this the moment you walked into a plaza and stood up for someone who couldn't stand for herself." But she said nothing. So he added, "And you've earned it every day since." The door opened. But it wasn't the agent. It was Tanya, from the firm, dressed in heels too high and a smirk too wide. "Well, well," she said, voice sticky. "Didn't expect to see you here, Maya. Upgrading from apartments to mansions?" Maya stood slowly. "What are you doing here?" "I work here now," Tanya said, flashing her badge. "This firm was smart enough to see talent when it walked through the door." I turned to Ethan. "And you must be the husband. Been hearing all sorts of things about you." Ethan's smile was polite, empty, lethal. "I doubt that." "Anyway," Tanya said, looking back at Maya, "hope you find something. Humble. Wouldn't want your little charity marriage to collapse under mortgage pressure." Maya didn't respond. But Ethan stood and handed Tanya a card. She looked down and paled. Because it was his card. The real one. With the embossed seal of Langston Holdings and his title. Chairman and CEO. Tanya looked up slowly. You're him." "Unfortunately for you," Ethan said. "Yes." He turned to Maya. "For shall we?" Maya nodded. But before they could leave, Ethan looked back. "I and Tanya," he said, voice velvet and steel. "From this moment on, your firm will never do business with any Langston affiliate, present or future." Tanya's mouth dropped open. "Then Maya?" She walked out with her head high, her palm warm against the envelope that bore her name. Later that evening, back at the condo, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, the deed spread out before her. "It feels unreal," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "It's real. You're giving me everything." "I'm not giving you anything," he said. "I'm returning what the world tried to take." She looked at him, and for the first time, Erin saw a man hiding behind status or guilt or protection. And she saw a partner. "Then maybe I owe you something too." He raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" She smiled. "A place beside me, not in front, not behind." Ethan reached for her hand. "I'll take it." Touching Jenna 9, the officer gossip and the elevator door. Monday morning hit like a slap. The buzz in the Langston Holdings building wasn't about market trends or quarterly projections. It was about her. Maya felt it before she even stepped off the elevator. The quick glances, the half smiles that never touched eyes, the sudden hush when she passed. She'd worked hard to belong here. Quiet, clean work, no mistakes. But the truth had leaked. Somewhere, somehow someone had discovered she was married to the CEO. And no one at Langston liked surprises, especially ones that wore $39.00 shoes. She reached her desk to find an envelope waiting. Inside, a tabloid clipping. "Who is Ethan Langston's secret wife?" The photo was grainy but unmistakable. Maya stepping out of his car, her hand in his. Scrawled in red marker on the bottom. "Didn't peg you for a gold digger, Maya." No signature. Just cruelty. She folded the clipping in half and dropped it into the trash. Then she sat down. Because she had work to do. By noon, the whispers had become voices. "Did you see her shoes? Please." She must have trapped him. Probably pregnant. "I only married her to shut his mother up." I bet she blackmailed him. Those types always do. Maya kept her head down. Her fingers moved across the keyboard like nothing had happened. But inside, her lungs felt tight. Her spine screamed for escape. And she stood. Across the floor. Pushed the elevator button with more force than necessary. The elevator opened. She stepped inside. And nearly collided with Ethan. They both froze. Not because they hadn't seen each other in days, but because everyone else had. Eyes widened, mouths opened, and then someone hissed, too loud. "That's her." Silence fell across the lobby like a drum. Ethan looked at Maya, then reached out and took her hand. She tried to pull away, reflex, fear, pride. He didn't let her, Olivia said. He stepped into the elevator with her. The doors began to close. Someone shouted, "Is it true? Did she trick you?" Another added, "Come on, Ethan, you can do better." Maya's heart pounded in her throat. The doors began to shut. And then Ethan pressed the hold button. He turned, faced the crowd, and said, in a voice that carried through glass and this is Maya Jensen. She is my wife. It's not because I lost a bet. Not because I was blackmailed. And certainly not because I needed saving. She's my wife because I looked at the world and I chose her. The room went still. Ethan stepped fully back inside, hit the close button again. This time no one stopped him. Inside the elevator, Maya didn't speak. Neither did he. But when the doors opened onto the executive floor, she whispered, "Why?" He turned to her, his voice quiet now. "Because I won't let anyone steal your name, your work, or your dignity again. Not even in whispers." Maya swallowed hard. "You didn't have to do that." He smiled. "You're right, but I wanted to." She looked at him. And in that moment, she didn't see a billionaire. He saw the man who remembered who she was before anyone knew her name. That afternoon, she received flowers at her desk. No note. Just blue hydrangeas, her favorite. The vase bore a tiny silver tag. The long gun Maya Langston. No apology. No explanation. Just presence. And somehow, that was everything. Chapter 10. Signed, not borrowed. The conference room was full. Not of people of eyes. The Langston Group board meeting had drawn the city's most polished sharks, developers, attorneys, men with suits that fit like threats, and smiles sharper than contracts. At the far end of the to his right sat an empty chair. Maya's. She stood just outside the doors, watching, breathing, not hesitating, calculating. The last 90 days had been a blur of transformation. The secret marriage, the public outing, the ambush in the hotel room, the house deed, the tabloids, the gossip, the rescue. And still, somehow, she stood. Not because someone saved her, but because she learned how to stand taller while bleeding. A woman's voice cut into her thoughts. Are you sure you want to do this? It was Evelyn Langston, Ethan's mother. Dressed in soft gray silk and no makeup, she looked more human than she ever had before. Maya nodded. Evelyn tilted her head. It's not easy. Being beside someone the world always watches. It requires more than strength. It requires clarity. I'm clear, Maya said. Evelyn studied her, then smiled. Good, she said, because I don't want a daughter-in-law who bends. I want one who breaks the world's teeth when it bites. Maya stepped forward and opened the door. The room fell silent as she entered. Heels on marble, navy suit, no jewelry except a slim pen tucked behind her ear like a sword. She walked to the table and took the empty seat beside Ethan. A few men exchanged whispers. Who is she? If he's not on the board. Wasn't she? And the wife. Then didn't look at her. But his hand slipped below the table and found hers. He squeezed once. Let go. Then spoke. There's a new addendum to the mid-civic development contract, she said. It violates 3 housing ordinances, 2 environmental codes, and unless Langston Holdings wants to be the next headline in civil violation litigation, it needs to be written. No one spoke. So she continued. I've already written it. And she passed copies down the table. Page 6, Section 4, Clause 13. Someone muttered, Who the hell is she? Ethan looked up, calm and deliberate. This is Maya Jensen Langston, he said, my wife, and Langston's new in-house counsel. Silence cracked in. Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. One of the board members glanced over the new contract, whistled low. She's good, he muttered. Maya looked up. I'm not good, she said. I'm prepared. That night, Ethan poured her a glass of wine as they stood on the balcony of the home he'd once wanted to hide from her. The ocean spread out like ink below the cliff. Maya took a sip, then handed him an envelope. What's this? He asked. My new business registration, she said. Jensen Legal, boutique advisory firm. I'll still consult for Langston, but I want something of my own. Ethan unfolded the paper. Maya Jensen, managing partner, he read aloud. She leaned against the railing. I don't want to borrow power anymore, she said. You never did. She looked at him. I borrowed your name, but everything else I built? He set the glass down. You didn't borrow my name, he said. You chose it. She smiled. Maybe now I'll keep it. Later that night, she found him on the floor of their bedroom, surrounded by sketch pads. He looked up, embarrassed. You draw. Badly, he said. What is that? He handed it to her. It was a rough pencil sketch of her, standing in the doorway of their first apartment, holding coffee, barefoot, half smiling. This is terrible, she said, laughing. I know. She looked up. It's mine. He grinned. Exactly. She sat beside him. You know, when I first married you, I thought I was walking into... You were? Ugh, me. A good one? She leaned her head on his shoulder. And for the first time, there was no noise in the world loud enough to shake her. When a name becomes a choice. It was a Thursday morning. The world hadn't changed. The city still buzzed with its indifferent rhythm. Phones still rang. People still judged. But Maya stood in front of her mirror and looked at the woman staring back. She wasn't angry anymore. Scared. Waiting to be rescued. She wasn't the girl who signed her name at a courthouse to save her job. And she was the woman who rewrote the contract. Downstairs, Ethan was fixing coffee lately. He burned toast again. There was jam on the fridge handle. He was muttering to himself like a man who just realized CEOs don't come with domestic skills. But she loved him more for it. Not because he was powerful, but because he had learned to listen. He didn't try to fix her. He stood beside her. That's the thing about love, not the kind they sell in movies or whisper about in magazines, but the kind that stands with you when the headlines fade. The kind that sees who you were before you knew your own worth. The kind that says, your name is yours, I'm just honored to be written beside it. Later, Maya walked into a courthouse, not to get married, not to file a claim, but to represent someone who didn't have the money to afford her rate. She still took the case. Because sometimes, power isn't what you hold. It's what you choose to give away. She never told the world the full story of how she met her husband. And things were better kept between two people and a quiet sunrise. But when people asked why she kept her name Maya Jensen, not Langston, she just smiled. Because I didn't marry a name. I married a man who never once asked me to change mine. If you've ever loved someone quietly, if you've ever rebuilt your life after betrayal, or stood in a room where no one thought you belonged, but you stayed anyway, you already know this story. Because it's not about wealth or rings or even names. It's about choice. The quiet, brave kind. The kind that says, this is who I am, and if you see me clearly, you can walk beside me. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to share your own. Tell us, what's one choice you made that changed your life quietly but completely? We'd love to hear your story in the comments below. After all, the world could always use more love. The kind that doesn't shout, just stays.